And I go and I hit him right in the back of the neck like that. And he just looks at me, and I'm like, well, that is not what Star Trek taught me. This was my first chase that I ever got into, and I was on Mansell Road in Alpharetta, which is the southernmost tip of our jurisdiction. I was maybe a year into being a police officer. Doing what I always did was run tags. You run tags, see if you can get a hit on a stolen vehicle or a suspended license, whatever it is. You're looking for something beyond just general traffic stop. I run a tag. It comes back stolen. And like I said, this is early on in my career. I remember the heart start pounding. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is it. And it was a red Ford F-150. There was 2 people in it. And so I get in behind it, and I call out that, once I run a tag that's stolen, it alerts all the other police officers that are in the area or on our system. And so they know that I'm behind a stolen vehicle, and then dispatch will key up and they'll say, hey, are you with that vehicle? And I'm like, yes, I'm behind it. I haven't initiated a traffic stop yet. I'm waiting for another unit, right? Because it's a good plan. Stolen vehicle, we have a felony that's occurring, so you want to make sure that you're taking good measures, not just off the handle, throwing your lights on and creating something that could potentially be extremely dangerous for you. So I'm waiting for another unit, but I had pulled in. They knew what was up, and they take off, right? And so they start heading down Mansell Road, take a right. We're doing all they sideswipe a couple vehicles. Like, this is legit. And I see I have backup in my rear view. And so we're probably 10, 15 minutes. And like I said, I'm a brand new officer. They're hitting all these vehicles. I'm staying behind the car, doing a pretty good job, but my heart is definitely pounding. Somehow, after about 5, 10 minutes of going back roads, we end up on Holcomb Bridge Road, heading down towards 400. And they hit another car on the way to 400, and I'm calling all this out. So this is back in the day too, where as long as the conditions were okay, I was in control, which I must have been calling it out okay, where they trusted my judgment at this point. So I was allowed to continue in pursuit of this stolen vehicle. And this was a pretty big deal in Alpharetta back in the day too, was that there was a stolen car. And I had backup with me. So they let the pursuit continue, and we're going 400 southbound now. And we're talking speeds. And I was in an Impala, and you got to understand the speeds, and you have a Ford F-150 that's hit a few cars. We're going speeds close to about 130 miles per hour. That was the top capabilities of my car, but I'm keeping up with the Ford F-150. And I remember no problems on 400 southbound, but I've kind of gotten a little bit of tunnel vision, and I don't know where my backup is anymore, just because I'm not paying attention. But I assumed that he was still there because he was with me all this other time. And so we're going 400 southbound. And this is before they just changed the exit that exits onto 285, which is a big perimeter around the city of Atlanta. And the exit onto there really doesn't seem that high of a degree of a turn. But my rear end, when I got on it, all of a sudden started swaying back and forth. And I kind of started thinking, I might have to cancel this. Just because my car, it seems like it's falling apart. I can't control the rear end. And we got straight enough where it was okay. And so I was like, oh, all right, I think it's okay. But I was riding my brakes a lot on that. And we were probably doing close to 100 on that exit. And like I said, I felt it fishtailing, and I'm riding my brakes a little bit because I'm worried about the control aspect. And the guy's starting to pull away from me. So I'm like, oh, I might not be able to maintain this. But I stay in behind him. He's cutting in and out of traffic about a mile down the road. I see him in the distance because he's starting to pull away from me a little bit now. And he takes a hard right and slams into the guardrail. And so I'm close enough now as he made that hard right where I've caught up and I'm right behind him. And so I start hitting the brakes. And there's nothing there. Like my foot goes all the way to the floor, and with no resistance, I'm like, that doesn't seem right. I'm like, well, there's that guardrail. Let's see if it works. Right? So right by where the Ford F-150 hits, and they're now running down into the woods. There's 2 of them running into the woods. I just, all right, well, let's test out this guardrail. And it did its job. It actually stopped my vehicle. I throw it into park. I jump out and I start running. Still, I'm not thinking about, hey, where's my backup? I'm just assuming that they're still with me. And so I go down into the woods and there's two guys and I have my gun out. I'm yelling at them, get on the ground, get on the ground. One guy plops down on the ground immediately. The other guy looks at me and then says, nope, and he jumps on this fence and starts climbing the fence. So I go up to where he is and I grab him off the fence. He comes down and he grabs my gun. And so now that becomes a deadly force situation. But I'm looking at him and I see the guy's just scared, right? It's not like he's trying to rip the gun away. It looks like he's just trying to push it away. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna, although I'm justified, I'm not shooting. My oldest brother, who's like 12 years older than me, loves Star Trek, and I've watched a lot of Star Trek in my days. And the way that you incapacitate someone quickly, and like honestly, I grew up doing martial arts, right? And they teach you the knife hand strike, right to the back of the neck right here. And when Captain Kirk did it, immediately, if you hit someone in the back of the neck with anything, they're unconscious, and it ends the fight. And so I take the weapon still in my hand, and I go and I hit him right in the back of the neck like that. And he just looks at me, and I'm like, well, that is not what Star Trek taught me. And so I'm like, I am vertically challenged. And so I'm like, maybe I didn't have enough leverage. There's a mechanical issue here, so I need to create more leverage. And so I did it again, but I jumped this time and came down on the back of the guy. And the guy just like looked at me like, what are you doing? He is now bleeding. And so I'm like, all right, I need to get this gun out of the fight. So I holster my gun, and it's before we had tasers. So I'm going through the options. We have an ASP baton, which is an expandable baton. And I'm like, yeah, if my little Captain Kirk chop to the neck didn't work, I'm not using an ASP baton to start wailing on this guy. The other guy's now gotten up, and because he's watching this, and he's taken off. And so I'm like, I'm going to use my pepper spray. It's there. But the guy is bent over in front of me because although it didn't have the effect that I desired, he's still in pain in front of me, hunched over. And so I grab my pepper spray, and I start shaking the can as we've been taught, and I put it up underneath his face. And you, seeing this motion, can see the problem with spraying pepper spray upward towards his face and my face at the same time. And there's a rule of pepper spray anyway. It doesn't matter which way you spray it, it's getting on you. Well, I got full streamed by myself. Like, I sprayed him. Yeah, he got some. I got some. Now I have pepper spray in my face. He has pepper spray in his face, and he starts to run again. I know because we've done training with pepper spray. It's actually when they first start you out, they spray with pepper spray, and you've probably seen the drills where they spray cops, and then they have to go up and they have to like hit a bag, and then they have to run to another bag and use the expandable baton on that bag, and then they have to do something and say something and open their eyes. And I know that my vision is about to go in about 10 seconds. And so once again, he was kind of a slender, taller guy. I jump on his back like a backpack, and I put him in, once again, martial arts training. Although the judo chop didn't work, I'm like, what will work is a rear naked choke. And so I jump on to restrict the blood flow, and he starts like tapping out, and I'm like, I'm sorry, sir, like, you're going to sleep. Like, there's no tapping out, right? And so finally he goes down, and so he's on the ground, and he's now, I can hear he's doing it. I can't see, he can't see, I guess. And my backup finally shows up. It seems like I've been fighting for like 10 minutes. I'm sure it was not long at all. But he's like, where's the other guy? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, can you point me towards the fence? And so he points me towards the fence, and I go, he's that way, right? And so he goes and looks for him. I'm like, wait, before you leave, can you handcuff this guy? He's like, why can't you? And I'm like, I sprayed myself in the face with pepper spray. And so he's like, oh, that's brilliant, rookie, right? So he goes in and puts the cuffs on him. We get that guy in custody. I don't think we ever found that guy. And also I lost a $300 flashlight, which was quite disappointing in the pursuit into the woods. And once again, it's so funny as a police officer. You have all these memories, and I think it's on 285. There's a school that's on the other side, and every time I pass that, and there's a dent in the guardrail, and I doubt that's the same dent that I put there. And I've stopped before to go look for my Gladius flashlight that's in the woods. So I went to grand jury on that one, and I'm telling the story, and there was this older lady that jumped up in the back and she said, "You should have shot his ass." She jumped up and said, I'm like, well, thank you. I didn't think it was appropriate at the time. But I guess I made some good decisions there.
Finding your next dream car can be like searching for a needle in a haystack, but the best tool to use is Autotempest.com. Autotempest is the smartest and most powerful tool to search for your next car or your dream car because they allow you to search all the major listing sites at once. Their motto is all the cars, one search, and they've been supporting VINwiki for the last 3 years. Quite honestly, it's the first place I go to look when I'm searching for my next car, and I think that you'll absolutely love it. So check them out today at the link in the description below, and thank them for their continued support of VINwiki.